This video is sponsored by Ultimate Guard. But even long before this channel was sponsored by Ultimate Guard, they were always my #1 choice when it comes to sleeves or deck boxes. Pick up Ultimate Guard products at your local game store or order them on Amazon. Link down below. Welcome once again to Commander by Danon. This week we're looking at upgrading the pre-constructed commander decks from Bloomburrow. Today's video, as I'm sure you saw from the thumbnail and video title, will be upgrading Animated Army. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. Animated Army is a deck led by one of two new commanders, Bloomburrow, Bard of the Brambles, or Wildseer Scouring Maw. Let's take a look at both of them and then discuss what we're doing with them. Bloomburrow, Bard of the Brambles is a 3-mana 3/3 legendary raccoon bard who turns all of our non-equipment artifacts and non-aura enchantments we control with mana value 4 or greater into 4/4 elemental creatures. He also gives them indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This only happens on our turn though, so we can't use them to block. In other words, Bloomburrow animates artifacts and enchantments and draws us a ton of cards. Wildseer Scouring Maw is a 5-mana 6/6 legendary elemental wolf with trample. He makes it so that enchantments we cast from our hand have cascade. Both of these are fun and interesting commanders, and I was thinking about splitting them and making 2 separate decks, but I also looked at the rest of the deck and decided I didn't want to do that. Bloomburrow cares about both artifacts and enchantments, while Wildseer only cares about enchantments. We've got a lot of both in the deck, but we also have a whole bunch of creatures as well as an absurd amount of ramp. Normally, I recommend a deck looks something like this. Remember, this is a guideline, not a necessity. You want your deck to basically be 50 mana sources, usually split between 37 lands and 13 pieces of ramp, 10 pieces of card advantage, 8 to 10 pieces of spot removal, 2 to 3 board wipes, 2 pieces of graveyard hate, and 1 sudden I win card. But this deck had 38 lands and 24 pieces of ramp, as well as 14 pieces of card advantage. While this sounds fun, that meant that our interaction and spot removal was very light, only 6 cards. Yes, some of our ramp and card draw also served a double purpose because Bloomburrow would turn them into creatures, but I felt that this deck needed a complete rework. But don't worry, we'll be taking almost all the cards we've cut and building a new deck. Total cost for both decks comes to $327 at the time of recording. Oh, one more quick announcement before we get started. I'm currently taking a break from streaming, but I do plan to continue on soon. I'll mostly be playing Final Fantasy XIV, but you're more than welcome to come in and talk about Commander. Just make sure you're subscribed to either my Twitch channel or my other YouTube channel, Musings by Danon. We'll be cutting from the base deck Grumgully the Generous, Grothma All-Devouring, Llanowar Loam Speaker, Lotus Cobra, Garruk's Uprising, Path of Discovery, Itali Primal Storm, Sakura Tribe Elder, Domri Anarch of Bolas, Prosperous Bandit, Bright Cat Badger, Trail Tracker Scout, Wandertail Mentor, Burnished Heart, Garruk's Pack Leader, Farseek, Rampant Growth, Cultivate, Tendershoot Dryad, Goreclaw Terror of Kalsisma, Rolling Ham Sphere, Teapot Slinger, Galta Primal Hunger, 1 Mountain, and 1 Forest. Most of this is ramp and various other cards that don't really support our commander's plan. Now that we've made room with our cuts, we'll be adding Chromatic Orrery, Wilderness Reclamation, Zendikar Resurgent, Mana Reflection, and Dreamstone Hedron as replacement ramp. That can also become creatures to smack our opponents in the face. For card advantage, I've added Alhammarret's Archive, Tamiyo's Journal, Eidolon of Blossoms, Abundance, and Mind's Eye. To help round out our interaction, we've got Vandal Blast, Return to Nature, and Nevinyrral's Disc. Just imagine popping Nev's disc when all of our stuff is indestructible. You love to see it. Finally, rounding out our deck, we've got Vidalcan Orrery, Unwinding Clock, Conjurer's Closet, Bear Umbra, Fiery Emancipation, Darksteel Forge, Akroma's Memorial, Zendikara's Royal, City on Fire, Mirrorworks, Dictate of the Twin Gods, and Mycosynth Lattice. Now that we have our deck list, let's compare it to our checklist. 53 mana sources split between 36 lands and 17 pieces of ramp. A little high, but we have some high mana value spells, and a lot of our ramp doubles as creatures, so it's fine. 17 pieces of card advantage counting our commander. Again, a little high, but most of it doubles as creatures. 8 pieces of interaction, 3 board wipes, 1 piece of graveyard hate in Return to Nature, 1 sudden I win card in Vandal Blast. But Danon, how can Vandal Blast win the game? Well, gentle viewer, what if we have a Mycosynth Lattice on board? If we overload Vandal Blast, we blow up all of our opponent's permanents for the low cost of just 5 mana, and we can win the game. Even better, we can then turn Mycosynth Lattice sideways to smash their faces in. But wait a minute, Danon, you forgot to cut Wildseer Scouring Maw. That's correct, he's still in the deck. But we did cut a different legendary creature that actually works quite well with the rest of this deck, so let's take a look at the new deck led by Grumgully the Generous. Grumgully the Generous is a 3-mana 3/3 Goblin Shaman who makes it so that each other non-human creature we control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. You'll note that a lot of the cards we cut from the pre-constructed deck work very well with this commander. So that's the direction I went for with our second deck. Let's take a look at each card and discuss the overall plan of the deck, shall we? For lands, we're running Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Rootbound Crag, Commercial District, Island Forest, Wooded Ridgeline, Cinderglade, Karplusan Forest, Crag Crown Pathway, Game Trail, Temple of Abandon, Slagwoods Bridge, Gruul Guildgate, Gruul Turf, Scavenger Grounds, Myriad Landscape, 11 Forests, and 10 Mountains. The only lands that made it over from the original deck were 1 mountain and 1 forest, unlike the next section. For mana ramp, we've got Llanowar Loamspeaker, Lotus Cobra, Sakura Tribe Elder, Domri Anarch of Bolas, Prosperous Bandit, Bright Cat Badger, Trail Tracker Scout, Wandertail Mentor, Burnished Heart, Farseek, Rampant Growth, and Cultivate were all pulled from the original deck. Adding to this, we've also got Rishkar Prima Renegade, Sol Ring, Incubation Druid, and Fertilid. Good old reliable Fertilid. Our card advantage took Garruk's Uprising, Path of Discovery, and Garruk's Pack Leader from the original deck, but we also added Evolution Witness, Armorcraft Judge, Inspiring Call, Return of the Wildspeaker, Tribute to the World Tree, and Guardian Project. Lots of burst draw combined with consistent draw. Our interaction package is entirely new and consists of Stump Stomp, Beast Within, Airy Oofs, Chaos Warp, Artifact Mutation, Return to Nature, Volt Charge, Abrade, Naturalize, and Decimate. Good mix of permanent removal. To clear the board, we've added Blasphemous Act and Chain Reaction. Both new, of course. Taken from the original deck, we've got Etali Primal Storm, Tendershoot Dryad, Goreclaw Terror of Kalsisma, Rolling Hamsphere, Teapot Slinger, and Galta Primal Hunger. In addition to that, we're running Renata Called to the Hunt, Thundering Raiju, Herd Baloth, Krenko Tin Street Kingpin, Forgotten Ancient, Master Chef, Ivy Lane Denizen, and Scurry Oak. Supporting our +1/+1 synergy plan, we've also got Kami of Whispered Hopes, Hardened Scales, Rhythm of the Wild, Evolution Sage, Dusk Shell Crawler, Ozolith the Shattered Spire, Silk Guard, Court of Garenbrig, Uncivil Unrest, All Will Be One, and Ferocity of the Wilds. Now that we have our secondary list, let's compare it to our checklist. 54 mana sources split between 37 lands, 16 pieces of ramp, and 1 MDFC. 10 pieces of card advantage, 10 pieces of interaction, 2 board wipes, 2 pieces of graveyard hate in Scavenger Grounds and Return to Nature, no sudden I win cards, but lots of value. So this deck wanted to just have fun with +1/+1 counters. Obviously, you could slot in a Goblin Bombardment with a creature that has Persist like Lesser Manticore or Ariuths, but I didn't want to run any easy infinite combos in this deck. I was going for value. The other deck is the Scary Control deck. This one's just for fun. Now, I know that neither of these decks are exactly budget, but they're not super expensive either. Honestly, building 2 commander decks for only about $325, $50 for the precon and another $275 for additional cards, isn't that bad. Now, I plan on doing this type of video for all 4 decks, but as of right now, I haven't dived into the deck lists enough to figure out what kind of budget they'll be. Just taking it one day at a time for now. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. You can have a video made or just ask for help building or tuning a deck list. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Danny, Muffins, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Sean, Mark, Borgie, Nazwin, Midge, Alex, Conga, Aaron, Chris, Robert, Austin, William, Pye, Turner, Triz, Kazera, Slack, and Dan. You guys are awesome. I post new Commander Deck videos every weekday, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Commander by Danon.